Rachel whispered back. Suddenly, one of the elves spotted them. She looked very surprised. "Hello," she called. "Where did you come from?" "I'm Rachel, and this is Kirsty," Rachel explained. "We came here through the forest." "Where are we?" Kirsty asked. "This is the entrance to the land of sweets," said the first elf. "My name is Wafer, and this is my sister, Cornet. We are the ice cream makers," added Cornet. "What are you doing here?" "We're looking for Izzy, the indigo fairy," Kirsty told them. "Have you seen her?" Both elves shook their heads. "We have heard of the rainbow fairies," said Wafer, "but fairyland is far away from here, across the lemonade ocean. Maybe you should ask the sugar plum fairy for help," Cornet suggested. "She's so clever and kind. She will know what to do. She lives on the other side of the village." "Could you take us to her?" Rachel asked eagerly. The elves nodded. "Follow us," they said together, and they led Rachel and Kirsty through the archway of pink and golden sweets. On the other side of the arch, the sun shone down warmly from a bright blue sky. Flowers made of strawberry cream grew beneath milk chocolate trees. Squishy pink and white marshmallow houses lined the village street, which was paved with boiled sweets. "Isn't this good?" Kirsty laughed. "It's like being inside a giant sweet shop. And it all looks yummy," Rachel agreed, spotting a garden gate made of stripy rock. There were elves hurrying everywhere. Some had shiny buckets like the ice cream makers, and others carried tiny silver hammers. There were gingerbread men too, looking very smart in their bright bow ties and currant buttons. Then a whole line of tiny wooden soldiers with polished black boots marched across the street in front of them, and Rachel spotted a glistening pink sugar mouse scurrying between their feet. Kirsty and Rachel smiled at each other white with delight. The two elves led Rachel and Kirsty down the street. Suddenly, a cross-looking gingerbread man hurried out of one of the houses and bumped into Cornet. "Hello, Buttons," Wafer said. "You are in a hurry." "What's the matter?" Cornet asked. "You look upset." The gingerbread man held out his hand. "Look at my best bow tie," he said. "It was red when I hung it out to dry on my washing line, and now it's this color." Rachel and Kirsty gasped. The bow tie was bluey purple. "Easy," the both said together. The ice cream elves looked puzzled. "I think this means that Izzy, the indigo fairy, is close by," Rachel explained. "We would better help you find her before she gets into any more trouble," Cornet said. Then she frowned as a small boy elf ran toward them. He had one hand clapped over his mouth, and he was laughing. "Scoop," called Wafer. She turned to Rachel and Kirsty. He's our little brother," she explained. "Scoop, what are you giggling about?" Still laughing, Scoop took his hand away from his mouth. Rachel and Kirsty stared. The little elf's mouth was stained indigo. What's happened?" gasped Cornet. "I had a drink from the lemonade fountain," Scoop said between giggles. All the lemonade turned bluey purple. "It made my tongue tingle too." "That sounds like more rainbow fairy magic," Kirsty said. Where's the lemonade fountain? Rachel asked the elves. In the village square, replied Cornet, just round the corner. Thanks for your help, said Kirsty. She grabbed Rachel's hand and they ran off. As soon as Rachel and Kirsty rounded the corner, they skidded to a halt. In the middle of the village square was a pretty fountain. Bright bluey purple liquid bubbled up from a fountain shaped like a dolphin. A crowd of elves, soldiers, and gingerbread men stood round the fountain, all taking at once. They sounded cross. A polka-dotted Jack-in-the-Box bounced back and forth with a grumpy look on his face. A sphere of indigo fairy dust shot up from the middle of crowds. As the dust fell to the ground, it changed to berry-scented ink drops. Rachel and Kirsty stared at each other in delight. They knew what fairy dust meant. They had found another rainbow fairy. Look out! Izzy! Rachel called as she and Kirsty pushed their way through the crowd. Is that you? Who's that? Called a cheeky, tinkling voice. Izzy was standing by the edge of the lemonade fountain. She had neat blue-black hair and twinkling dark blue eyes. She was dressed in indigo denim jeans and a matching jacket, covered with sparkly patches. Ink drop-shaped silver earrings hung in her ears, and her wand was indigo, tipped with silver. The fairy stared at Rachel and Kirsty with her hand on her hips. Who are you? She asked. And how do you know my name? I'm Kirsty and this is Rachel, Kirsty explained. We have come to take you back to Rainbow Sisters. We have found 5 of your sisters so far, Rachel added. We're going to help you all go home to Fairyland. That's brilliant news, Izzy cried. I've been so worried. How did you get to the land of sweets? Kirsty asked. The wind blew me down the chimney of Mermaid Cottage and into the story of the Nutcracker, Izzy replied. I've been in the land of sweets ever since. I can't go back to Fairyland and break Jack Frost's spell without my sisters. I have to get back to Rainspell Islands first. Before Rachel and Kirsty could say anything else, the crowd started shouting again. Look what she's done to the lemonade fountain, grumbled one elf. Izzy grinned at him. I didn't mean to, she said. The lemonade looked so yummy. I just had to have a drink. And that's when it turned indigo. And what about my bow tie? Snapped Buttons. He had followed Kirsty and Rachel to the fountain. I was really tired after walking out of the forest, Izzy explained. I borrowed your lovely bow tie to wrap around me while I had a little nap. The crowd started to muster crossly again. Quickly, Rachel stepped forward. Wait, she said. Have you heard about the rainbow fairies and Jack Frost's spell? The crowd listened as Rachel told them the whole story. When she had finished, they didn't look cross anymore. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused, Izzy said. Please, can you tell us how to get back to Rainspell Island? The sugar plum fairy will help you, said the Jack-in-the-Box with a little bounce. Her home is just past the jelly bean field. That's where we were going, Kirsty said. Come on, then, Izzy cried. She darted forward and took Rachel and Kirsty by hand. Good luck, called everyone. Rachel and Kirsty walked along the road toward the jelly bean fields, with Izzy darting eagerly ahead of them. Just outside the village was a huge rock of golden toffee, as tall as a marshmallow house. Elves were tapping the rock with little hammers to break pieces of the toffee. Other elves picked them up and put them into silver buckets. Kirsty nudged Rachel. That looks like hard work, she said. They don't seem to be collecting much toffee at all. Rachel peeped into one of the buckets as an elf walked past. Kirsty was right. There were only a few chips of toffee in it. Is there something wrong with the toffee? Izzy wondered. The elves with the bucket overheard her. It's really hard today, he grumbled. Anyone would think it have been frozen. Frozen? Kirsty said in alarm. Do you think that means that frost goblins are here in the land of sweets? Whenever the goblins were close by, they brought frost and icy weather. Izzy looked scared. I hope not, she said. Just then a loud rumbling noise and a shout of "Look out!" made them all jump. An enormous wooden barrel was rolling down the street straight toward them, and running behind it was two goblins grinning all over their ugly faces. Stop these goblins! We have got you now, Izzy, shouted one of the goblins. For a moment everyone froze. Then Izzy leaped into action and gave Rachel and Kirsty a push. Quick, get out of the way, she yelled. They jumped aside just in time. The elves dropped their hammers and buckets. They dashed out of the way, bumping into each other in their panic. Crash! The barrel smashed right into the toffee mountain. Then it burst open. Lemon sherbet spilled out in a sticky yellow cloud. Easy, Kirsty, Rachel coughed, peering through the sherbet. Are you all right? I think so, Kirsty sneezed. A tissue. Help! Kirsty had heard Izzy's frightened voice, but she couldn't see her through the sherbet cloud. Help! Izzy shouted again. The goblins have got me. Her voices were getting fainter. Quick, Rachel, gasped. Kirsty gasped. Have you got our magic bags? Still coughing, Rachel swung her rucksack off her back. Titania, the fairy queen, had given the girls' bag full of magic gifts to help them rescue the missing rainbow fairies. Rachel opened her rucksack. Inside it, one of the magic bags was glowing faintly silver. Rachel pulled out a folded paper fan from the bag. Puzzled, she opened the fan up. It was colored like the most beautiful yellow, with stripes of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Rachel thought for a moment, then she began to flap the fan out at the clouds of sherbet. Whoosh! A blast of air from the fan blew almost all the sherbet away. Wow, the fan is amazing, Rachel gasped as the last of the sherbet drifted off. Look, Rachel, shouted Kirsty. They're over there. The goblins had tied Izzy's trainers together with strawberry bootlaces. They were hanging half dragging, half carrying her up the road toward the jellybean fields. You have got to save her, Rachel said, quickly folding the fan and putting it in her pocket. Come on, Kirsty. I'll go and tell the sugar plum fairy, said one of the elves, and he dashed off. Rachel and Kirsty ran up the road. The goblins had a head start, but Izzy was wriggling so much that she was slowing them down. The road led through the jellybean fields. Tall green plants stood in rows. each one covered with different colored beans, pink, white, blue spotted, and chocolate brown ones. Elves were picking the jelly beans and putting them into the big baskets. Suddenly, Rachel noticed that the goblins were looking greedily at the jelly beans. One of them skidded to a halt. He leaned over the fence and grabbed a big handful of beans from the nearest plant. The other goblin did the same. "Yummy," said the first goblin, stuffing the beans into his mouth. "They're so greedy," Rachel panted. "Yes, but it gives us a chance of catching them all." Kirsty puffed. She started to run even faster. The elves working in the field shouted angry at the goblins, but that didn't stop them. They gobbled down one bean after another, picking beans with one hand and holding on to Izzy with the other. "I've got an idea," Rachel whispered to Kirsty. At the side of the road, she could see some baskets full of beans which had already been picked. She hurried over and lifted up a basket. Then she held it out toward the goblins. "Look what I've got," she called. "A whole basket full of beans." A suitable punishment. The goblins' eyes lit up when they saw the basket. Izzy grinned and winkled at Kirsty and Rachel. She guessed what they were doing. "Those jelly beans look yummy," Izzy said to the goblins. "I wish I could have one." "Be quiet," snapped the goblin with the bigger nose. He turned to the other goblin. "You keep hold of the fairy while I get the beans." "No," said the other one. "You'll eat all the beans. You hold the fairy, and I'll get the beans." "No," roared the first goblin. "Then you'll eat all the beans." Glaring at each other, both goblins let go of Izzy and ran toward Rachel. She quickly threw a handful of beans on the ground and backed away. The goblins bent down to grab the beans. When they stood up again, Rachel drew another handful back down to the hill, away from Izzy. Those greedy goblins just couldn't resist the yummy beans. While the goblins were busy stuffing themselves, Kirsty rushed over to untie Izzy. "Are you all right?" she asked. Izzy nodded and wiggled her feet. "Thank you." Rachel put the basket on the ground and ran over to Kirsty and Izzy. The goblins pounced on the basket and began scrabbling over the rest of the beans. "Let's get out of here," Rachel said. Suddenly, there was a gentle flapping noise overhead. Rachel looked up to see a huge butterfly with pink and gold wings fluttering above them. On its back sat a fairy with long red hair. The butterfly landed gently on the ground. The fairy climbed off the butterfly's back and smiled at Izzy and the girls. So she wore a long green and gold dress and a tiara. "Welcome," she said. "I'm the Sugar Plum Fairy." She looked sternly at the goblins who were crouching beside the empty bean basket. "What are you doing in the land of sweets?" she demanded. The goblins didn't answer. They were too busy groaning and holding their tummies. "Ow," moaned the one with the big nose. "My tummy hurts." "Mine too," whined the other one. "I feel sick." "They have eaten too many jelly beans." Izzy grinned at Rachel and Kirsty. The Sugar Plum Fairy looked even crosser. "As you have stolen so many of our delicious jelly beans," she said to the goblins, "you must be taught a lesson. Why don't you make them pick jelly beans?" Izzy suggested. What a good idea, smiled the sugar plum fairy. That doesn't seem like a very bad punishment, Kirsty whispered to Rachel, but just look at the goblins' faces, Rachel whispered back. The goblins looked horrified at the thought of more jelly beans. They tried to get up as if they wanted to run away, but the sugar plum fairy waved her hand and several elves come running out of the jelly bean fields. They marched the goblins into the nearest field and handed them empty baskets. With sulky faces, the goblins started to pick the beans. Serves them right, laughed Izzy. Then she looked worried again. But I still need to get back to my rainbow sisters. Please, can you help us get back to Rainbow Island? Rachel asked the sugar plum fairy. The beautiful fairy nodded. We will send you home by balloon, she said. She waved her wand at the empty bean basket. Rachel and Kirsty watched in amazement as it grew bigger and bigger. There is your basket, but where is the balloon? Said Rachel. The sugar plum fairy pointed to the tall tree covered with pink blossoms. What pretty flowers, Kirsty said. Then she took a closer look and began to laugh. They're not flowers, they're pieces of bubble gum. How is that going to help? Rachel felt puzzled. Izzy grinned at them. Her eyes sparkled mischievously. Leave it to me, she said. She pulled one of the bubblegum flowers off the trees, popped them into her eyes and mouth, and began to chew. They're screwing up her faces, blew a huge pink bubblegum bubble. She puffed, and the bubble grew bigger and bigger. Soon it soared above them. It was the biggest bubblegum bubble Rachel and Kirsty had ever seen. Izzy took the bubble out of her mouth and tied up knots in the end. The perfect balloon, she said. Now we're ready to go. Rachel and Kirsty grinned at each other. What a brilliant way to travel back to Rainspell. The elves working in the jelly bean fields and the elves who had followed Rachel and Kirsty out of the village helped to tie the bubblegum balloon to the basket. Then Rachel, Kirsty, and Izzy climbed inside. Sugar Plum Fairy waved her wand at the balloon, showering it with gold sparkles. The balloon will take you to Rainspell Island, she explained. Goodbye and good luck. Thank you, called Rachel and Izzy, but Kirsty was looking round in dismay. There's no wind, she said. We won't be able to get off the ground. The bubblegum balloon. Rachel looked at the leaves on the bubblegum tree. Kirsty was right. They weren't moving at all. The sugar plum fairy smiled. Rachel, don't you remember what you have in your pocket? She said. Of course, Rachel explained. The magic fan. She took it out of her pocket and unfolded it. Then she flapped in under the balloon. Whoosh! The blast of the air lifted the balloon up into the sky. Goodbye, Kirsty called, waving at the sugar plum fairy and all the elves. Thank you for all your help, Izzy called. I'm sorry I made such a mess, she added with a giggle. The balloon puffed slowly upwards. As it got higher, the wind became stronger, so Rachel put away the fan. Big puffy clouds began swirling around the balloons. We'll be home soon, Rachel said, trying to sound cheerfully. The wind rolled around them, rocking the basket from side to side. Rachel, Kirsty, and Izzy hung on to each other. Then all of a sudden the wind dropped. The balloon stopped swaying. The balloon felt warm. Kirsty opened her eyes. "We're home," she gasped. They were back in Rachel's attic bedroom at Mermaid Cottage. The balloons and the basket had vanished. The book of fairy tales was lying on the floor, open at the nutcracker. "But where's Izzy?" Rachel said. "I'm here," said a cheeky voice. The indigo fairy popped up from the Rachel's pocket. She wiggled out and fluttered into the air, her wings sparkling with rainbows and showering the room with fairy dust ink drops. The smell of dewberries drifted up as they popped. Kirsty picked up the book. She turned the pages until she found a picture of the land of sweets. "It's a shame we didn't get to taste those lovely sweets," she said. As they spoke, a tiny puff of icing sugar floated out of the book. Then a shower of different colored jelly beans fell on to Rachel's bed. "They must be a present from the sugar plum fairy," laughed Izzy. Rachel and Kirsty even each popped a jelly bean into their mouth. They were tiny, but they tasted lovely. "Yum," said Izzy, munching a bean. "Can you take some back to the pot of my sisters?" Rachel nodded. "Let's go right away," she said, filling her pockets with beans. "Your sister will be waiting for you." She looked at Kirsty and smiled. They had rescued another fairy and escaped the goblins once again. They'd even been inside a fairy story in a book. And now there was only one more fairy to find. The end.